We sincerely apologize for that technical fault in the transmission room. However, we continue with the rest of the news. The headlines once more. Government spends 42.5% towards debt servicing. Chawama residents complain over contaminated water. ZNFU rejects FRA's 110 maize price. Higher education institutions to reopen exam classes. DMMU disappointed with Southern Province leaders Chanda Kabwe. And thieves dig tunnel to access beer in ShopRite. And now the news in detail. Government has in the last 60 days spent 6.56 billion kwacha towards debt servicing and arrear dismantling. Secretary to the Treasury at the Ministry of Finance, Fredson Yamba, Thursday announced a total budget expenditure of 6.73 billion kwacha for the month of May 2020. Of the total budget, 2.86 billion kwacha, about 42.5% of the total budget was spent on debt servicing and dismantling of domestic arrears, while a sum of 2.28 billion kwacha went towards the public service wage bill. Meanwhile, in April 2020, government announced a total budget expenditure of 6.56 billion kwacha, of which 3.7 billion was spent on both domestic and external debt servicing. The 2 months budget performance has indicated that government is spending substantially more resources on debt servicing as opposed to other important sectors. Considering the reducing in revenue inflows as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and other factors, the Ministry of Finance says it has embarked on a process of reviewing the 2020 budget. Through this process, planned expenditure will be adjusted in lines with revised revenue projections. One of the key outcomes of this process is the containment of the 2020 fiscal deficit within manageable limits. The ministry has, however, assured that social spending will remain a priority and will continue to be supported. Meanwhile, the public financial management consultant, PFMC senior economist, has noted that Zambia is spending less on the vulnerable due to debt servicing. PFMC senior economist Bright Chizonde says the May 2020 budget performance has indicated that government is spending substantially more resources on debt servicing as opposed to helping the vulnerable thrive during COVID-19. Mr. Chizonde says in May 2020, out of the total of 6.73 billion kwacha released, only about 9% was for social benefits, while 42.5% went towards debt servicing and arrears. Furthermore, Chizonde stated that Zambia should therefore urgently restructure its public debt in order to free more resources for social spending. Here is a report.
The May 2020 budget performance released by the Ministry of Finance indicates that government is spending substantially more resources towards debt servicing as opposed to social benefits. Only about 9% of the release in May went towards social benefits, as compared to about 42.5% which went towards debt servicing. There is need, therefore, for the country to restructure its debt in order to reduce the amount of money going towards debt servicing and to free up more resources for the social sectors. Also, one thing that is notable to note in the budget is that we observed that the Ministry of Finance has started reviewing the 2020 national budget. But in this process, again, we would like to urge the ministry to make sure that they safeguard social sector spending.
Chawama residents have complained over contaminated water and blocked drainages in their community. The residents further stress that the unclean water running in their homes has been an issue for months and it has not been attended to. The residents have called on relevant authorities to render help with this health hazard problem. Meanwhile, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company Public Relations Officer Mr. Shamba Mzungu stated that the company is unaware of the water problem in Chawama area. Here is a report.
Poor sanitation has been much a cry and worry for many low-class communities in the country. Unfortunately, this has been the worst of cases for Chawama residents as the flow of unclean water has become a threat to their health.
Mans kuna yamachuka ya doti, yamachuka ya nguo, yamachuka ya brown. And then tikapesika tikamu, yamanyonga ko pamara na madiarrhea maningi. I think 2 months ago yakuwa na 2 months wapa. Pamkosina pamankara pasesa sesa, tima pesika ko pamboga mga ni vironda. Pa next tap ndewe na bwaka mbako na vakanso bwaka mbati varungisa somewhere pani kutikaya. Tima kuma ngame bini usiku sunazive. So tima tapa pesika usiku za tapa ya zankari ya tima mwasoche kasunga zive. Na madame na madrainages ni ofuasa maningi upesika kuti mpepo ikachoka madrainages vifine sivisi ya vifua madairia ni ofuasa. Siapita manzi. Mtianganire boma tianganire pora pesika kuti madrainage vanapanga kuti manzi azipita but pesika kuti madrainage yachita affect yachipasa ma problems yachipasa matenda. So sio napo use ya madrainage anaita che matenda mkomboni. So boma yanganirepo. Irole shepo pa menshi ko mumara sana. Kapana corona ingachuke mwamineo. Katika daria zambo tigwira corona mnandi wakati manzi si ali bwino. So wati wanyanganepo pa manzi yankareko mushi.
Speaking to Camnet Television, the people of Chawama complained about the supply of unclean water and the poor block drainages that continues to threaten their well-being.
Kuno kuchawama, kala kuchawama, ndine Morgan Mkobera. Ipanti matapa manzi hapa. Manzi ya master, sometimes ya chinjako, ipelako muyero, sometimes manzi ya choka ya doti, ero to make matters worse. Kulibena ma drainage and then afuti mvula kwati afuti ikabwera ikaloka maningo pesa kati manzi amene aja kupompi ndiye amene yamabo pita ko even na hapa kambo even mungaone even kusogolo ma drainage kuja ni ofuasa si ali bwino so funako ba steko something pali ja pompi yamene yameta papo manzi.
The question that has left many to wonder is, has there been cautious sanitary planning for these communities? Reporting for Camnet Television News, Tennyson Kaunda in Lusaka.
Transport and Communications Minister Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya has said government is considering revoking statutory instrument number 76, popularly known as the night ban policy, which restricts public service vehicles from traveling at night. Speaking in Mongu today, Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya stated that while considering the decision of revoking the night ban policy, people's safety will be priority.
I've made it clear to my peers that for me, I want a situation where we revoke that SI and allow people to start traveling at night. Now, we are more concerned with the safety of the people. That is why, before we take that step, we have to make consultations. Otherwise, my position is very clear. It is that we need to allow people to go back to traveling at night. And I consider people of Mongu who want to go into Katimamulilo to buy merchandise and be able to bring back to Mongu. They don't want to, to travel over 2 days. They want to travel over a day and come back. We are considering those who are going from Mongu into Kamwala to buy things and come back. We are looking at people who are traveling from Kitwe, those who serve Sokone, those who serve all the big markets on the Copper Belt. We want to allow them to be able to come to Lusaka, buy their merchandise and go back so that they continue their business. But while we are thinking of that, we are balancing it off with safety, which is the most important thing. So the consultations which we have begun, from my perspective, is to make sure that before long we get to a place where people are able to travel again and again. So consultations are on right now as we speak. And the main aim from my end is to ensure that people go back to traveling at night. Once we finish with these consultations and we're happy that the safety of the people is guaranteed, we are going to revoke the SI and bring back people to traveling at night.
Some Lusaka youths have appealed to President Edgar Lungu to hand them back their freedom of expression. The youths who are struggling with economic hardship say they feel they are strangers in their own land. They said this following disputes making rounds on media platforms regarding threats of media freedom. Freedom of speech rather. We have more in this report. Although freedoms of expression and of the press are constitutionally guaranteed in Zambia, there seems to be a compromise as government is allegedly restricting these rights in practice. One such is an incident where the Lusaka province minister, Bowman Lusambowon's gospel artist, Kings Malembe Malembe, photographer, Chela Tukuta, and musician, Brian Wembia, also known as B-Flow, to desist from putting the name of the president into disrepute. From the video footage, there is no evidence that the trio insulted the image of the head of state or perhaps putting his name into disrepute. Instead, various stakeholders and members of the public have only noted that the three were exercising their freedom of speech as regards the demands of democracy. This story that has continued to make rounds on all media platforms calls for a clear definition of democracy in a country like Zambia that is democratic and Christ-centered. Zambian citizens have since appealed to the head of state to put the citizens first, saying that it is the reason they have entrusted him with power.
If you want to say something which I know it's right, I am being intimidated, like for instance to some of us who work. They intimidate us by not exercise our rights. If they scare us, what are we going to exercise our rights? That means we are not exercising our rights. Yeah.
Camnet TV news crew interacted with a Malawian national who has also expressed sadness at the happenings and calls for patriotism by government for its people.
Ine dziko langa ndizizikaso manitengere zinthu zangaso apo singavere bwino koma chimene chilipo anthu tuziuzingisa zinthu ngati munthu omuona ngati munthu ayenera kukhala momuno ngati even ndi mbava yoti ifuna kuba zinthu za muziko limenelo bayangane mochitira ni pamenepo koma sizoti ziko lizikaranzika zokazoka ziko silingatukuke ndetu.
Reporting for Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwinga Mwinga. We now take our next set of commercials. Keep watching.
Can I have that meal over there? And I really want that crisp, fresh apple taste from the garden. Can I have happy apple?
I think I'll have my big bite 2 meal with a happy waziwaka. Give us your
enjoy an appetizing big bite meal with an happy drink of your choice. A meal is not a meal without an happy drink. And now introducing Happy in a can.
Super cereal. We always start our day with nutritious super cereal. It's so easy to make. Just add hot water or milk. Fortified with essential vitamins, gives you energy and keeps you alert. Super cereal is so good for you. Comes in 3 yummy flavors: original, banana, and strawberry, and tastes so good.
Easy Super Cereal is made from non-GMO maize and soya and is good for the whole family. Found in all leading stores. Quick and easy.
Tastes delicious.
Full of goodness.
Makes you stronger.
Super Cereal.
Easy Super Cereal. Brought to you by Java Foods.
You're still watching Camnet TV News. Camnet, not just another channel, and now the rest of the news. The clerk of the National Assembly has advised the media that in the view of prevailing COVID-19 health guidelines, coverage of Parliament proceedings, which resumes on 9th June 2020, will also be under strict guidelines, and that only one media personnel from any media house will be allowed on Parliament ground. Further, that filming of Parliament proceedings has also been restricted to Parliament TV staff only. The clerk has further advised that media houses that wish to access or transmit processing on their channel processors on the channels are encouraged to collaborate with Parliament TV to access the live feed by formally applying the clerk of the National Assembly to access live feed. This is according to a communique availed to Camnet TV News today. The Zambian National Farmers Union, ZNFU, has rejected the 2019-2020 maize price of 110 kwacha per kg bag set by the Food Reserve Agency, FRA. ZNFU Public Relations Manager Calvin Kalei says the price is too low for the farmers as the cost of production is high. We have more in this report.
National Farmers Union ZNFU says the announced maize buying price by the Food Reserve Agency FRA has been rejected by farmers as the union recognizes that the cost of production has increased and continues to escalate while the asset base of farmers has been wiped out by the adverse weather pattern which has been prevailing season after season since 2015 and the hostile macroeconomic environment. ZNFU Public Relations Manager Calvin Calais says it is not an exaggeration to state that farming profitably today has remained unattainable by many farmers.
The Food Reserve Agency recently announced the maize floor price of 110 kwacha per 50 kg bag of maize for the 2019-2020 crop marketing season for maize. The Zambia National Farmers Union held consultations with the members and farmers and have rejected the producer price of 110 kwacha offered by the Food Reserve Agency in view of the economic downturn and rise in cost of production and cost of doing business. ZNFU wishes to observe that there were major increases in the cost of fertilizers, seed, chemicals, transport, electricity, labor, etc. since the last farming season of 2018-2019, which raised the cost of production. These have not been factored in before arriving at FRA floor price, as the 110 kwacha is what was offered last season. We are very mindful that the 3.3 million metric tons announced by government, 1.3 million metric tons was grown by farmers that are not under the Farmer Input Support Program. And with such a price, these farmers will be rendered bankrupt.
Mr. Calais says that it is unfair that the Food Reserve Agency FRA to set 110 kwacha as a maize buying price, as the cost of farming inputs such as seeds and fertilizer is expensive, as it will lead the farmers into making losses. However, Mr. Calais also revealed the Food Reserve Agency never held consultations with the Zambia National Farmers Union, ZNFU, when coming up with the maize buying price.
The Zambia National Farmers Union wishes to implore the FRA to always state which stakeholders they consulted over the pricing, as they stated that they consulted widely. ZNFU was not party to these consultations. We foresee history repeating itself in that next year there will be a decline in maize production. It is obvious that the FRA and the Ministry of Agriculture did not learn lessons from the past. The ZNFU is, meantime, appealing to all its members and farmers to remain united as we engage government over this depressing price.
The Food Reserve Agency FRA has announced that it will this year buy maize at 110 kwacha per 50 kg bag. Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Higher Education Minister Dr. Brian Mushimba has announced that the reopening of higher education institutions which were closed due to COVID-19 will reopen for examination classes only beginning 8th June 2020. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka today, Dr. Mushimba says that the reopening of varsities will be implemented in a phased manner based on the preparedness of the institutions as determined by the relevant authorities. We have more in this report.
Minister of Higher Education Dr. Brian Mushimba has announced that universities will open on the 8th of June and TVET institutions on the 1st of July to allow students in their final year sit for their examinations.
Open starting 1st July 2020. The TVET examination session dates will be reduced to 2 sessions per year. 1. Exams that were scheduled for April, May, will be held from 27th July to 7th August 2020. 2. Exams that were scheduled for July and August and November and December will be combined and held from 8th to 23rd December 2020. When reporting back, students will be required to bring their own masks, soap, and hand sanitizers, as these will be required for their safety as they report back to universities. Similar to the way we all went to school and were required to buy textbooks, were required to bring books and pens, our final year graduating students will be required to bring their masks, to bring soap, to bring hand sanitizers, as they come back to colleges and universities. Before institutions reopen, there will be need to inspect and certify the readiness by appropriate authorities, as I alluded to earlier. Some of the universities and colleges have been used as quarantine centers, I mentioned this earlier, and therefore the readiness will be different from institution to institutions.
Squatting has been abolished to meet social distance requirements in the COVID-19 era. Visitation to learning institutions has also been abolished by government to prevent the spread of the coronavirus in the learning institutions. Students will be required to buy their own masks, hand sanitizer, and soap. Foreign students will continue with e-learning and write their examinations online. Non-graduating students will continue with the e-learning until further notice. Surveying of cases in collaboration with other relevant institutions will be done to monitor compliance of COVID-19 guidelines. The cautious approach to reopening will be reviewed to ensure students are not put in harm's way. However, the reopening applies to both private and public learning institutions in the country. The learning institutions will be granted certificates to reopen by relevant government institutions to ensure appropriate preventive measures are adhered to across the country. When classes for universities and colleges resume, some of the key guidelines that will be required to be followed include temperature checks at entry gates, provision of hand washing facilities at all entrances of hostels, lecture rooms, labs, administration and built building, restriction of students to 2 students per room in hostels and no hostels will be permitted, restrictions of visitors on campus, social clubs and amenities will be closed, very strong peer-to-peer monitoring, regular inspections of hostels to ensure compliance, regular cleaning and disinfection of buildings and surrounding areas. Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU National Coordinator Chanda Kabwe is disappointed with leaders and radio stations in Southern Province for telling Southerners that there is no coronavirus in Zambia. Mr. Kabwe, who was speaking at a press briefing held by the Minister of Higher Education, says the leaders of Southern Province needed prayers for deceiving people. Mr. Kabwe also wondered why Southern Province was difficult to deal with when it comes to matters of governance. Here's a report.
The biggest challenge, Honorable Minister, for example, in Southern Province that I found, I don't know why that province is always a challenge in the governance. They are telling people that there is no COVID. I was shocked to discover in Mazabuka and part of Choma, including some of the radio stations, they are sending this message that there's no COVID, it's just a PF of wanting to steal money. I don't know what is wrong with this province. I don't really understand. And I wish that the Minister of National Guidance during prayer and fasting in October, I think we need to focus more, because some of these people who are saying, some of them are very learned members of parliament who are sending such information and discouraging learners from wearing these masks. We must pray for some of the leaders from that province so that may God help us. Honorable Minister, above all,
the Kwacha rally came to a halt on Tuesday following a wane in inflows from exporters and sellers. The Kwacha began the day trading at 18.25/18.300. However, by noon, the local unit has been quoted at 18.350 to 18.400 ngwe, a level it maintained until close of business. This week, market activity was rather flat as most players had anticipated a further rally of the Kwacha below the 18 ngwe mark per dollar. Capmont Bank says should importers' demand continue slowing down, the local unit is likely to remain flat in interim with limited movements to the downside. We'll now take a break. Don't go away.
Fabulous Engineering Limited, Zambia's largest and most advanced modern engineering company. We provide superior engineering solutions of any scale and are committed to delivering highly professional and comprehensive service to our customers, ensuring complete satisfaction. We are unaffected by power cut as we have installed 2 high-capacity generators. This guarantees round-the-clock efficiency. FAIR boasts of unique and exclusive machineries such as lathe, universal boring and milling, internal slotting, surface grinder, shaping, radial drilling, heat treatment furnace for hardening, shutter manufacturing, ducting pipe manufacturing, rolling, plate banding, hydraulic press, plasma cutting machines, fuel pump testing bench, injector testing machine, hydraulic pipe clamping machine, hydraulic pipe fitting, and many more. We are manufacturing specialists of shop shutters and ducting pipes. We also offer the following services: maintenance and repair and on-site support. Call us on 0955 764 011, 0979 698 382 or 0969 064 419. Email info@fabulousengineering.com. We are located at plot number 7204 Kachiza Road, Light Industrial Area in Lusaka. Fabulous Engineering Limited, Zambia's largest and most advanced engineering company.
You're still watching Camnet TV News. Camnet, not just another channel, and now the rest of the news. In international news, an American conservative commentator and political activist, Candace Owens, has charged that the late George Floyd's actions in his lifetime left much to be desired, as opposed to being held as a hero as people keep chanting about him. Owens says as she read through George's record, what was discovered broke her heart, as George had serious records of criminality with which Mr. Floyd had been arrested 5 times. Miss Owens has further explained that what broke her heart most was that the most acclaimed hero among his records had a history of attacking a pregnant woman. Here's a report. The death of Black Minnesotan George Floyd at the hands of a policeman has continued to spark protests in some countries across the globe. His death has brought about several campaigns against racism towards the Black community.
But I will be damned if the rest of us upstanding Black citizens have to suffer because of this incident that rarely ever happens in America. So here are some numbers for you people that are still believing that police brutality is a real, racially motivated police brutality is a real thing. First and foremost, okay, you have a 25% higher chance as a violent white criminal of dying at the hands of a police officer than you do as a Black criminal.
It is widely known that Blacks in the United States of America are more likely to be sentenced into imprisonment than whites. And many believe that it is due to extreme racism that such happens. Many advocates have taken to task to ensure that the late Floyd's killers are faced with the wrath of the law. However, an American conservative commentator and political activist says George Floyd was not the hero people keep singing about.
That's what's going to happen. We're going to get ahead. Black conservatives get ahead because we don't subscribe to this narrative. Because you're not going to catch me outside trying to grab a TV pretending that it's because a martyr named George Floyd got killed. I'm a big believer that no matter what color you are, you do stupid things, you win stupid prizes, okay? We have to do better. We have to teach our kids better, or we're not going to get ahead, right? Anyways, this is just a rant because I have been feeling super annoyed at these depictions in society. I have no apologies here to make. George Floyd is not my martyr. He can be yours.
Candace Owens, who strongly defended her reasons, says Mr. Floyd allegedly has a history of being imprisoned 5 times. Mrs. Owens explains that what broke her heart the most was the story that she read about the deceased breaking into someone's house who was heavily pregnant, but upon neighbors calling an emergency line for rescue, Mr. Floyd, who was accompanied with a gang, dashed into hiding. The political activist in her video charged that Mr. Floyd and other Blacks were indeed responsible for their consequences. She, however, says she has no defense for the cop responsible for Mr. Floyd's death and that she hopes he gets the justice he deserves. Reporting for Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwinga Mwinga. In South Africa, a Johannesburg Shoprite chain stores is offering 50,000 rands reward for information leading to the arrest of thieves after one of its liquor stores was robbed. The thieves made off with alcohol worth 300,000 rands. Thieves tunneled through a solid concrete floor to gain access to the store in Newton Junction. A store manager discovered the theft and a large hole in the ground when she entered the store on Friday. Shoprite says the suspect returned a few times to steal a large amount of stock. This includes whiskey, brandy, gin, cider, vodka and beer. The suspects use electrical and stormwater tunnels beneath the shopping center to gain access. The retailer says the footage shows 3 culprits who were first recorded on CCTV cameras 2 weeks ago were involved. Tennis star Nikilos Basilishvili, who was ranked number 27, was charged with assault by his ex-wife Nel Dorokovishvili. However, Nikilos has denied allegations of violence against his ex-wife, with whom they have a 5-year-old son. The case has since been taken in for thorough investigations by the police department. Athletes around the world have reacted to U.S. protests against George Floyd's death. Many have condemned racial discrimination in the following video that was posted on many social media platforms.
There has to be justice. There has to be protests. We have to be heard. We have to move forward strategically. We have to move forward smart. We have to move forward tedious, and we have to be together, man. How we doing it?
Talk about how sports is for everybody. We talk about how sports is where you bring people together. It's everybody's, it's an inclusive thing. But when we talk about our own personal battles outside of sports, there's a lot of people that are silent on issues, and they're important issues. They're issues that have been going on for hundreds of years, and we need that same type of team mentality to be brought to issues outside of our sport.
And finally, in sports news, in boxing, Anthony Joshua's battle of Britain against Tyson Fury should rightfully be staged in front of a big audience in the UK, says Ricky Hatton. Fury's promoter, Frank Warren, has suggested that talks are ongoing for a massive fight against Joshua in 2021, with all the world heavyweight titles at stake. The Brit rivals could be lured to America or even the Middle East by lucrative offers, but former world champion Hatton has urged Joshua and Fury to deliver a historic fight on home soil once the sport resumes. Hatton says a fight of his magnitude needs to be in England, describing the fight as 2 British heavyweights, 2 men at the top of their game, a brilliant clash of styles, a brilliant clash of personalities. He says, we've got to have the fight in the UK for British boxing. We need this in the UK. It's an absolute must. On that sporting news, we end the news. Our verse of the day comes from the book of Job 19, verse 25. The Bible says, I know my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. This has been Camnet Television. Camnet, not just another channel. Good night, and God bless you.